Hi, I'm Charlotte Kemp, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to share with the South African Council for Businesswomen again. I've been asked to talk to you about casting a vision, and it comes at a particularly interesting time for me, since I've spent so much time with my optometrist over the last year trying to get my prescription absolutely right, or at least as best as we can get it. I wear contact lenses, and the lenses that I have at the moment allow me to see far away very clearly. But when it gets closer, even at my computer, I start to struggle, which means that I need to start putting on readers over my lenses so that I can see close. And if I do any kind of craft work in the evening or crocheting, then I need to wear a different set of lenses so that I can see my work up nice and close. And all of this helps me to realize how much we struggle with our vision in a normal day, let alone our vision in the long term. And that is what we're going to discuss today. So let's have a look at how we can learn how to cast a powerful vision. One of the very first things that we struggle with when it comes to casting a vision is seeing through all the noise. And one of these stereographs from years ago that we used to play with really helps us to get this picture of how much noise there is in the world. You're busy doing your daily work. You're trying to keep up with your family, all the things that you need to do for yourself. And at the same time, you're expected to step away from all of that, refocus really clearly, and get a vision for yourself and for the people in your team, the people in your department, whoever it is that you're working for. It can be a really tough job, but we're going to try and break that down a little bit today so that you can get closer to defining that vision for yourself and casting it for others. In case you haven't met me before, I'm Charlotte Kemp. I am a Futurist Keynote Speaker. I'm an author of a number of books, and you can find them on Amazon. And I'm also the President-elect of the Global Speakers Federation. I was very honored to be elected to this position. But one of the reasons I did it was because I wanted a different perspective of the world, of the career path that I was in, and to see my colleagues and the industry and the profession and the connections and the network from a different perspective. It has allowed me from a global position to be able to see things so much clearer and in a better picture at a local level. It has helped me to grow my career and to make sure that the value that I bring to my colleagues in the speaking world is of a completely different nature. And so much of that has to do with vision. When we stand too close to something, we do not have the good picture. We need to be able to step away and see that big picture so that we can cast a better vision. And that is what we're looking at. So vision is the art of making visible what is invisible to others. And we need to do that. As leaders, we need to do that. As women, mothers, caretakers, we need to be able to see the invisible and make sure that the people that we are surrounded with have a picture of that. That is our responsibility. So let's go on what we would normally say a journey. But I am a futurist, so I need to really make clear that we're not journeying somewhere. We are going on a really bold expedition. A journey means someone has been there before and they're coming back and they're taking people along. There's a very clear map. We know what is coming. We can prepare very well for this journey. We can even plug it into our GPS and we know what to expect. But when we move into the future, we are on an expedition to a place that no one has been to before. We may have experience in going to places that are unfamiliar. We may have a lot of insight about what may be coming so that we can prepare ourselves to a certain extent. But there is no GPS here telling us exactly where to go. And there's no way that we can beat our GPS record from last time because we don't quite know what we're going to encounter in the future. And that unknownness, that not knowing what is coming next is what causes so much insecurity and anxiety about the future. And that is what we want to, that's what we want to deal with. That's how we actually cast a vision to encourage people to explore. Now, we do have tools. We're not going unarmed. And one of the first tools we use when we go on any kind of expedition is we need a compass. We don't know what is coming, but we need to at least know which direction we are headed in. And a compass really helps us. So this compass analogy is going to help us to look at the future, what is coming. There are 4 stages to this compass. Our first stage is that we want to gather intelligence. We need to get together all the information that we need, that we can find, so that we can prepare ourselves as best we can. Part of that gathering intelligence means bring people onto your team with experience in an area that may be required in the future. Again, there's no definitive experience of the future, but people who are preparing themselves have a mindset that is open to these changes, open to this exploration, and they're not filled with anxiety. A lot of the work that I do as a futurist is coaching leaders so that they can have a futures-focused mindset so that they can help their teams move into the future. So gather intelligence is our first step. The second step is to manage change. No matter what is happening, there is change. And if we are denying that change, if we're not moving to the future with that change, then we're changing in a way that is deteriorating, that is falling to pieces, that is essentially dying and decaying. So we're going to be changing. We may as well be changing for the future. We may as well be changing with ways to enhance what it is we can do in the future. Our third stage of this compass model is actually what we're talking about today. It's describing the future. For me, it is the most exciting part of being a futurist, because here we get to cast that vision. Here we get to use our imagination. Here it is where we get to define what we want and what we do not want in the future, and change our actions now, today, so that we can move closer to what it is that we're actually seeking, what we're hoping for in the future. Describing the future is the essential part of a futurist. And if you've ever heard me speak before, you know that I believe every one of us is a natural futurist, but we can become better with a little intention, a little more conscious intention about what we're doing. So we gathered intelligence, we prepared ourselves for change, we're describing the future so that we know where we want to go to. The fourth stage of our futures plan is to test our strategy. Are we any closer to where we want to be? Are we encountering things? Are we seeing things? Are there trends? Are there flags indicating we're going the wrong direction, or the country is going in a particular direction? How do we respond? And this is a constant testing, a constant checking back again of what is happening to what our plan is, what our definition, description of the future looks like. So we keep moving. This is not a, prepare a business plan, show it to your bank manager, put it into your drawer kind of approach. This really is a constant adjustment, as if you were on the ocean and you are constantly adjusting to the waves and the tides and the weather around you. So let's look at some of the different ways we view things, how we can approach our vision. So like I said, I've spent a lot of time at the optometrist recently, really been looking at different kinds of lenses, contact lenses or glasses, and how they help us to see. So I've had to negotiate with the optometrist about the quality of my vision. I cannot see perfectly far into the distance and perfectly close up with the same lenses, but I can adjust them. I can compromise a little bit so that I can get the vision that actually suits me on a day-to-day basis. And if we don't test our vision, we have this blurry concept of the world. We can't really see things clearly. And sometimes when our vision starts to fade, before we become aware that this is a problem, we start to kind of miss that clarity of vision. We forget that we used to see clearly. We forget that there used to be a better way to look at things. We accept the world in this blurry fashion. And so many people live their lives day by day in this blurry fashion, kind of fumbling around because they're not quite sure what they're looking at. But the minute we put the correct lenses on and we see things the way they're supposed to be, besides the shock, besides the realization that you have been blurry for so long, comes the hope that now with this clearer vision, you are able to do things that you could not do before. And that is what we're pursuing. The agency, the ability to actually act on our future and create new opportunities. But besides the different contact lenses and the different kinds of glasses we can wear, there's other ways that we can use lenses, glasses, in different ways to look at different things. For example, we could have a microscope. If we have a microscope, we're looking really close to us, really right in front of us at something very small, and we're trying to reveal it. We're trying to see the different little cells and elements of this teeny tiny thing in front of us. And there are microscopes of different strengths that can help us to see even deeper and deeper into the small tiny world in a drop of water, in a grain of sand. That microscopic view is very important for certain people. It is very important in certain circumstances, but we do not walk around our days with a microscope in front of us, looking at tiny things. We would not be able to drive. We would not be able to walk from one room to another if we had a microscopic view in front of us. We could also, of course, have a magnifying glass. And a magnifying glass also brings things that are close to us at hand, and it makes them a little bit clearer and sharper. And they are useful very often for reading, for looking at a map, trying to find things that are hidden on that map. What is it that might be missed? If you're looking closely at a work of art, you might want to look with your magnifying glass at the different kinds of shades and layers of paint, for example. In business, obviously, we use the concept of a magnifying glass to look at our figures, to look at our business, to look at the process and procedure that we have in place to make sure that we're getting it right. I lost a business many years ago because when we looked at our graphs, we saw some nice upward projections. When the business failed, I looked at this and I thought, how could I have made such a terrible mistake? And how did an external company afford to lend me money when clearly there was something wrong with the business? What did we miss? And I took a magnifying glass and I drilled into looking deeper and deeper and deeper at those figures until what I revealed to myself was that some of the best months that we had were due to only two individual customers. And had they been removed from the equation, my business would have looked like it was struggling for a longer period of time. And nobody would have risked investing more money into it. We wouldn't have risked holding it in place for such a long time because we would have seen a better picture. So there are times when you need to be very courageous and pick up that magnifying glass and look at relationships, look at your bank balances, look at your cash flow, look at your procedures, and work out what might be wrong in those places and then address them. Knowing what is there is no good at all unless you actually take action to address it. So we've gone from microscope to magnifying glass. We've looked at our actual lenses ourselves, but we also have things like telescopes. And telescopes help us to see very far into the distance. If we're on an expedition, on a boat, a ship, traveling across an ocean, one of the things we want to do is look out for land. We want to know when we can next get off the ship and get onto land and feel like we're grounded again. And we use that telescope to look for what is coming. If we've got a more powerful telescope, then we actually look beyond this world into the cosmos. We look beyond this planet, beyond this time, and we see things that are happening light years in our past, but very, very far away. And when we have that picture, we start to get a perspective about the world that we are in today. So we can see we have a range of different tools, different lenses to see different things. All of them are valid in their place, in their time, but they're not obviously all equal. And you wouldn't use the wrong lens for the wrong situation. It is important for you as a leader to be aware of the lens that you're using and aware of the lenses that other people are using as well. If there is someone in your team who is using a microscope or a magnifying glass to look at some particular content right in front of them and their whole world is absorbed in that small picture, they can't see the bigger picture. And maybe you can. And when you're speaking, you might be speaking in a totally different way and not communicating clearly because you're looking at different things through different lenses. So pause, take a step back and see what lens people are using, what lens are you using, and make sure that we're looking at the right one for the right situation. If you're approaching payday or month end and you want to look at your figures, then a magnifying glass is really good. But when you are looking at the vision for your organization, where you're going next year, what you're hoping for, then you need to have that bigger picture. You need to look maybe at a telescope so that you can see further into the future. And of course, there are other lenses we could be using as well, which we may want to avoid in circumstances such as ours. One is the rose-tinted glasses, the one where we're trying to be optimistic constantly. I personally favor optimism as an approach because when we're pessimistic, when we only really focus on the bad things, then we tend to shut down emotionally, cognitively. We close down, we are unable to make decisions that need to be made. If we have an optimistic, an intentionally optimistic perspective of the future, then even when we see the problems that are there, and we're not denying them, even when we see the problems that are there, we are sure that there is a way that we, with our creativity, our resources, our connections, our network, a community such as this one, can pull together and find ways to overcome the challenges that we face. We are not helpless victims in the future. We need to find ways to pull together and create those new opportunities. But when we look through rose-colored lenses, then we're not even seeing the reality of what we're facing. And the other one is the kaleidoscope. The kaleidoscope is so much fun. To take a few minutes and play with a child's toy and look at all the different pictures, all the different ways that things can come together, realize that there's an optical illusion there with the lenses and the angles. That's fun. That's entertaining. But we cannot keep looking at the world or the future through that lens. We need to put the kaleidoscope down and start to make some pretty serious decisions about the future. So how do we do that? We've described that in that compass model, stage 3 is describing the future. And one of the most important elements of that is using scenarios, scenario planning, describing different ways that the world could appear in the future. Now, there are many different ways of doing scenario planning. It's a really important part of any kind of futures thinking plan for your business or organization. But I like to kind of summarize it in 3 simple ways, 3 kind of different scenarios that we can look at. And dare I say, the utopian version of this is going to be brilliant, and the opposite dystopian version of this is going to be terrible and scary. And then the middle of the road, the muddling along route that we normally take. If we have those 3 different perspectives, then we teach our brain to start looking for things between those 3 different scenarios. And we are better prepared for what comes next. But in any way that you look at this, you want to look at least 3 different pictures of the future, give it a name, find a way to describe it, and then look at the plans that you're making for your business, for your own career within those 3 plans. So we want to define at least 3 of these pictures. One way we could do it is to look at how are we going to go into the future. We could be traveling along a road. Walking along a road, perhaps. When we are walking into the future, we can see the path in front of us. We can see anything that is coming, in a matter of minutes or hours in front of us. It's a slow, calm approach to the future. We are grounded. We know what is coming. Another way to look at how we're moving into the future is by boat, on water of some kind. And there we are subject to a certain extent to where the body of water is, whether it is a still body of water or a flowing one, whether there are tides, what the weather is around us. But we might be able to move a lot faster on the water than we can on the road. And a third way of looking at how we're going to travel into the future is by air. It could be by airplane, which is really fast, or it could be by hot air balloon, which is much more romantic. But when we're in air, we can look down and we have a better perspective of the whole world around us, what is coming in terms of time. We can see further into the distance. And again, none of these are mutually exclusive. It's not like you can only take one route. You could be walking along from Monday to Friday, and on the weekend, you could be making some plans for the next quarter, and you could be moving a bit faster. And then every now and then, once a year, once a quarter, perhaps, you step back, you get that big aerial view of the world. And all of these is looking at your vision of the future, of what is coming next, of how you prepare yourself, your business, your team to move into the future. Another way of looking at different scenarios is looking at the path that we're taking. And again, these are just descriptive ways of considering the future. These are not definitions. These are not specific ways we do it. The idea is that you find ways, 3 different ways to look at the future, so that you give your brain that space to explore between them, to be more flexible and responsive to what is coming. So when we look at 3 different ways, the top right picture there is of a railway track. We're on the railway track. We can't deviate. The train is going to go where the track is, and if there is no track, it is a disaster. And there are some businesses, some organizations that need to operate that way. And very often when we're stuck that way, we can't respond. If there is something in front of us on the railway track, if the track disappears, we are stumped. We cannot go any further at all. The bottom picture there is of one of those Zen gardens, where it's very, very calming, very organized, very simple and minimalistic. We don't want all the noise around us. We want to be in control of the path that we are in, but it's a path that we make and a path that we can easily wipe out and start again. And if you have the kind of business, if you have the kind of career where you can respond very quickly to changes, then that might be the kind of scenario that you're looking at. That you want it to be clean and simple and organized. You want to see where you're going, but you're also prepared when necessary to brush over that, break over the soil, and start again and create a new path for yourself. That is a kind of person or organization that can reinvent themselves in response to things that are happening around them. For many people, though, we're on this kind of path where it's jungly around us. There's noises, there's birds chirping, there's things crawling around the ground. We can see a little bit of light into the future, but we don't know where that path is going to take us. We don't know what is around the next bend in this foresty outlook. None of these paths are better or worse than the other. They're just realities. Different businesses, different lives will reflect a different kind of path. But if you want a vision for the future, if you want a vision to take your team with you, you need to understand which kind of path you are on, which kind of path you prefer to be on, which kind of path makes better sense for your team and your organization. Now, we're talking about vision, we're talking about women. I love this quote from Subra Mohanty, who says, "A woman with vision is a vision for many women." When we are able to cast a vision for the future, we almost give permission for other people, for other women to do the same, for other people to explore and step into the opportunities and the greatness that lies before them. So let's get a little bit more practical about the actual elements of our vision. And there's 3 parts. The first part is our purpose. What is this team for? What is our vision for? What is it that we're aiming towards ourselves? Why do we exist? And many people get stuck here. I get stuck here very often, almost imagining as if outside of myself, there is some external quality that tells me what my purpose is. And for some people, that is a comfort, that they will look to religion, they will look to God and say, God has put me here for this purpose. For other people, that is not helpful. They want to express their purpose from within themselves. And sometimes it's a purpose that needs to be found, and other times it's a purpose that we decide upon. You do not have to have someone else. You do not have to have your parents, your culture tell you what your purpose is. You can define the purpose for yourself. And the purpose does not have to be your lifelong purpose. It could be something that you are going to invest your time and energy and creativity and genius into for the next few years, for this stage in your career before you move on to something else. But you need to know what it is that you're working for. Find a way to articulate that. Find a way to describe your purpose. Then we need to be very, very clear about our values. And this, we could spend hours just talking about values, but they are so important because once we understand what our values are, it gives so much clarity to the vision that we are trying to define. If we do everything else and we don't know what our values are, we can get everything else right, but our vision is still going to be blurry because we're going to be responding in ways that are not coherent with what drives us internally. And just like our purpose, we can inherit our values from others, or we can decide our values for ourselves. This is a really great opportunity to explore what it is that you want to achieve in the future. You're describing the future, and that is intrinsically a value to you. And I have an exercise that is available to help people to just try and start that definition of values. If you'd like to know more about that, please be in touch, because I feel the more we understand our values and understand and respect the values of other people, the better our communication, the clearer our vision, the faster we are going to be able to achieve what it is we're trying to achieve. And then, of course, we need to have the picture. We need to know what it is that we're aiming towards. What does it look like? If we don't know what it looks like, how do we know that we've arrived? How do we know to avoid something that isn't what we have defined? So we need to be pretty clear on that picture. Flexible enough to respond where necessary, but pretty clear on that picture. And once we've got that, we've got a really good vision of where we're trying to go and why, and why this effort is worth it. So now you've got those elements, your purpose, your values, and the picture that you're painting for yourself and for others about the vision of where you want to go, what you want to achieve. How do you make sure that that picture stays alive, stays understandable to people, that we keep kind of turning to it? We need to find a way to make that vision a little bit more tangible. And we can be doing this for our team or for ourselves. There's various ways. Some, for example, might be journaling. Some people love to sit and write longhand with a pen, if they're good penmanship, and to be able to write out their ideas, their dreams, their challenges, to be able to almost discuss with this diary of theirs what it is that's on their hearts, what they're wrestling with. And journaling is a very good way for some people to clarify their vision and to hold fast to that. Other people prefer to have something more visual, and a vision board would be an obvious choice. We find the pictures that at a glance tell us what it is that remind us what it is that we're trying to achieve, or what it is that we're trying to do, or why these things are important. And all those values are expressed on our vision board in a way that at a glance we can look at it and just absorb everything it is that we're trying to do in one beautiful conglomerate picture. You can create a vision board for yourself, and you and your team can create a vision board for that team, for that department, so that they are all on board for that project. And again, this does not have to be forever, for life. This is your vision board for this year, for this quarter, for this department, for this project. You can find a way to articulate that. And once you've got a vision board, once you've done whatever it is you need to do, once you have achieved it, go back and celebrate. Create another vision board of your celebrations, your achievements. Some people are a little bit more internal in terms of the way they communicate. So when we are meditating, we are pursuing mindfulness, when we are praying, we are reinforcing for ourselves what that vision is in a way that is really personal to us. So how we define that becomes part of how we breathe, how we express ourselves in terms of the vision we're pursuing. Maybe we want to make it a little bit more tangible and obvious, and then we can find ways to kind of salt the world around us with these little reminders of what it is we're trying to pursue, little clues and hints and encouragements. Post-it notes in the bathroom mirror is one of the most common ways people suggest that we remind ourselves of our vision and our goals. But find ways to keep reminding yourself that the work that you're doing today isn't just work today. It is part of something that is bigger. That is the vision that you're trying to pursue. And then, of course, we can paint a picture. And I don't mean we'll paint with, paints and paintbrushes, but that we can find a way to describe, to articulate, to really in people's minds, give them this picture of what it is we're trying to achieve. The world that I'm looking for looks like this. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream. Other people who talk about changes and pursuing different goals in a way that inspires people and motivates them to action, motivates them to move beyond their timidness, to try something new. All of those are ways of painting a picture for the future. Now, I know, because I've been there, that sometimes I want a model, a 3-step program, a matrix that I can fill in so that I can define exactly what this looks like. And it's not necessarily like that. Some of us are more analytical, and we want that scientific, mathematical process. Give us this picture so that we can see what it is we need to do. Give us the ABC, the steps, so that we can define the vision, or that we can communicate the vision. And others are more of an artistic inclination, where they want to splash colors around and be warm and embracing and find new ways to express their vision to others. It doesn't matter. There are no rules here. How you want to define your vision is up to you. And you're going to find a creative way that is meaningful to you and meaningful and helpful to the people on your team that you are trying to lead. You're going to find a way to cast that vision for them. So explore that, be creative. We humans are incredibly creative beings. Everything you see around you in this moment in time has been created by somebody's imagination. And you can use your imagination, your creativity to do the same for others. Do not deny that creativity that is in yourself to cast a vision for an incredible, wonderful future. So let's go back to this beginning part where we looked at the 4 stages of this compass. We've gathered intelligence, we've managed change, we're describing the future that we're looking for, and then we're going to test our strategy. That's the ongoing process, just to make sure we're on the right path. And as we continue to do that, we get closer and closer to the future that we would prefer to see, the future that is meaningful for us, the future that we want to leave as a legacy for others. That is why we're on this glorious expedition into an unknown future. And literally what we experience in 10 years' time, in 5 years' time, next month, tomorrow, what we experience is because somebody has set that up for us, or we have set it up for ourselves. You get an opportunity right now today to change your vision of the future and to change the vision of those around you. Make it a good one. Make the future one that we are happy to be in, that honors and uplifts and brings hope and love and comfort to everyone. That's a future that I have a vision for. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope to hear about your visions. I hope to see you successful and celebrating when your visions become reality. And thank you for being part of the movement of people that cast visions for others and encourage them during difficult times into a beautiful future worth living in.